Good evening. Call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for Cleveland Heights for January 21, 26 to order. The time is 7:00 p.m. All members are present except Ms. Lewin, whose absence is excused, leaving us with a quorum of 4 members of the board. First matter of business, as always, are the minutes of our prior meeting. This is the minutes of the December 17th, 2025 meeting of this board. Are there any corrections or revisions? If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted? Mr. Holm. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved as circulated. All right. Now, we have our first order of business, because this is the January meeting, is the election of officers. So at this point in the meeting, I'm serving as Chair Pro Tem, and I'll request from the board nominations for Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals for 2026.
Mr. Chair Pro Tem,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Tom Zich to remain as the chair and lose the Pro Tem.
All right. No seconds required for this motion for the nomination. Are there other nominations?
Nope.
One can only hope. Seeing no more nominations, I'll ask for a motion to close the nominations.
I'll move to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the nominations are closed. We'll now vote on the nomination of the candidate for chair. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. We have me as chair.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Now we need to elect a vice chair. So if I can have nominations for vice chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I would like to nominate.
Go ahead. Mr. Chair, I would like to nominate Ben Hone.
All right, Mr. Hohen is nominated. Are there any other nominations? If not, I'll ask for a motion to close the nominations.
To close?
All right.
Sorry, nomination to close, please.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of closing the nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the nominations are closed. We'll now vote on the nomination of Mr. Hohen to be vice chair. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Mr. Hohen, congratulations, you are the vice chair for 2026. Now that we have a appropriately constituted board, let me, as I always do, or as the chair always does, explain the purpose and procedures of our meeting for all of those in attendance. These hearings are quasi-judicial in nature, and certain formalities must be followed as if this were a court of law. Anyone who wishes to speak on a case will first be placed under oath. For each case, city staff will make a presentation, and then each applicant will present his, her, or its case stating the practical difficulty for which we are being asked to grant a variance. The board will then open a public hearing to obtain testimony from any other persons interested in the case. The applicant will have an opportunity to respond to any testimony from the public, and all those speaking should address their comments directly to the board, please. The board may ask questions of the applicant. Based on all the evidence in the record, the board will make findings of fact and render its decision by motion. The formal nature of these proceedings is necessary because each applicant is asking for an extraordinary remedy called a variance. A variance is formal permission by the city for an individual to not comply with a portion of the municipal zoning ordinances that are binding on all others. In making its decision of whether to grant a standard variance, what we have before us tonight, a request for standard variances, the board will weigh those factors set forth in the zoning code at section 1115.07E1, which are on the screen. The burden is on the applicant to demonstrate by a preponderance of the evidence that the literal enforcement of the zoning code would result in a practical difficulty. Preponderance of the evidence means that the applicant proved his, her, or its position is more likely than not true. The applicant must demonstrate circumstances unique to the physical character of his, her, or its property. Personal difficulties, personal hardship, or inconvenience are not relevant to the board's determination. The board is the final administrative decision maker for all regular variances. All right. We'll move on to our cases. First, we have calendar number 3617. I'll say in advance, if I mispronounce names, I apologize, but I will do my best. It's the calendar number 3617 is the application of A&T Natus at 2564 South Taylor Road, located in an A single-family district, requesting two variances. First, to code section 1121.12A4, to permit steps that exceed 3 feet in height to be less than 5 feet from the side property line. And second, to code section 1121.12A5, to permit a patio and walkway to be less than 3 feet from the side property line. As initial matter, could anyone wishing to testify in this matter, including staff, please stand if able to be sworn.
All of you, please affirm that you will testify to the truth.
I affirm.
I'm going to note, and this may carry on any of the matters we have where there's more than one specific variance. Our general procedure is that we will hear the evidence and the presentations together with regard to all the requested variances for that matter, and then it's at the board's discretion. I leave it to the members of the board whether we want to break them into separate motions or deal with them in bank. And because there's nothing that compels us to grant all or none, that if there are more than one request, the decision is separate as to each one of those variances, although it can be combined in a single motion. Before staff begins their presentation, unless are there any objections, I ask that the staff report dated January 16th, 2026 be entered into the record. Seeing and hearing no objection, the report is so entered. If you could proceed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is calendar number 3617, A&T Natus at 2564 South Taylor Road in an A single-family district, requesting the two variances previously described. For context, the property is a single-family home in an A single-family district. The property is at the northwest corner of South Taylor Road and East Monmouth Road. All properties immediately around 2564 South Taylor are zoned A single-family. The master plan future land use map shows that the parcel will be used for detached single-family purposes. The applicant proposes an addition that will connect their home to the garage. The parcel is a code-conforming lot in terms of area and width. The parcel is 10,000 square feet in area and 50 feet wide. A minimum A single-family parcel has an area of 7,500 square feet and a width of 50 feet at the building line. According to county records, the home was constructed in 1912, and the garage was constructed in 1979. Sorry, there was a mix-up here. So here's the site plan for the property. Excuse me. So the existing house is 2 feet 10 inches from the northern side property line, which is non-conforming. Homes are required to have 5-foot side yards in the A single-family district. The proposed addition will continue the 2-foot 10-inch setback between the existing home and the garage. Although it is less than 5 feet, the proposed setback is permitted per code section 1175.01B, which allows additions to be within the minimum side yard if they're no closer to the property line and no longer than the existing home. Next to the garage, a stairwell is proposed that is 2 feet 0 inches from the northern side property line and requires a variance. Steps exceeding 3 feet in height are required to be 5 feet from the side property line. Next to the stairwell, a concrete patio and walkway is proposed that is 0 feet 0 inches from the northern side property line and requires a variance. Patios are required to be 3 feet from the northern side property line. There will be a portion of the patio which will be covered by a canopy, which is 5 feet from the northern side property line and code conforming. This is from the boundary survey provided by the applicant. The proposed concrete patio expands an existing brick parking pad, which is currently 5 feet from the northern side property line and code conforming. The proposed addition will reduce the size of the rear yard from 3,998 square feet to 3,329. The existing garage, driveway, and patio and walkway cover approximately 22% of the rear yard, which is code conforming and below the maximum of 60%. With the proposed addition, the patio will cover just approximately 12% of the rear yard, which is also code conforming. And I just want to note that this is slightly different from the staff report. First, this photo shows where the addition will occur. This area is the parking pad, which will be turned into a concrete patio with an awning. This photo looks at the property line where the variance is requested. Here's another photo of that property line now looking back towards the rear of the property. So the outer limit of the walkway would be near the trees that are shown on the right that separate the two properties. The purpose of this photo is to give you context of the neighboring backyard near the variance request, near that setback. And again, here's another look at the two backyards. And one final look at the rear of the applicant's property. In the neighborhood, the other corner lot properties had detached garage similar to the applicant's current garage. Here's another example. Generally, what you saw in this district was single-family homes with detached garages. Although I did find one example of a home with an attached garage. If approved, conditions should include calendar number 3617 is granted to code section 1121.12A4 to permit steps that exceed 3 feet in height to be 3 feet 0 inches from the side property line shown on the drawing submitted to BZA on December 10th, 2025, to code section 1121.12A5 to permit a patio and walkway to be 0 feet 0 inches from the side property line as shown on the drawing submitted to BZA December 10th, 2025. The patio shown on the drawing submitted to BZA December 10th, 2025 may not be used as a parking pad. Approval of the Architectural Board of Review, receipt of a building permit, complete construction within 24 months of the effective date of this variance. And just to explain the second condition there, so from my conversations with the applicant, the intention is to use the space as a patio, and even though it's concrete, to not park any cars on it. But the purpose of that condition is to ensure, especially as it relates to that setback, that future properties don't use that as a parking pad. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? If not, if the applicant or the applicant's representative could approach the podium and as an initial matter, both are welcome. As an initial matter, state your, if each of you could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Charles Hall.
Address, please. Your address,
My home address,
whichever address you want to use.
or my home address is 7848 Sunny Drive, Walton Hills, Ohio.
My name is T. Natus. My address is 2564 South Taylor.
When you're speaking, if we can to ask if you can get close to because this is being recorded.
Of course.
You can get close, thank you. Before you begin, did the applicant or applicant's representative submit an application?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, is the contents of that application true and correct?
Yes.
All right. There's no objection. We'll enter the application into the record. Hearing and seeing no objections, the application becomes part of the record. Now, if you could summarize for us the reasons for the why a variance is needed, and the presentation is yours, but it helps us the extent to which you saw what the factors are that guide our determination. So if you can help us explain how the application meets those standards.
Okay, sure. First, I want to thank you for taking the time to review our application. And I'd like to commend the owner for his commitment to the neighborhood and having the vision showing that he has a commitment to the neighborhood by wanting to make a large investment in this existing house that he wants to live in. It's so easy for someone who needs more space to just move and buy another house or maybe use this as a rental, but he has a commitment to the neighborhood and he's looking to make a substantial investment in this home. He wants to build a 2-story addition between the existing house and the garage, and he wants a private access behind the garage to the rear of the property. The space we're talking about is essentially dead space between 2 garages. You won't see the new stairway, and you won't see the walkway between the 2 garages. The neighbor's garage isn't shown here, but on the site plan, you can see it. And right now, the space is just overgrown with trees and shrubs. It's pretty much a dead space. And the reason he wants that access is for security reasons, to have a private access to his second floor of his home. He doesn't want that visible from the street for security purposes. It also would take away from the look of the home aesthetically if you had a stair on the outside that's visible from the street. That's just not appealing to have in the neighborhood. So this is causing the request for the variance because there's only 5 feet from his garage to the property line. And we're proposing to have a 3-foot wide stair coming from the roof deck above the garage down to have access to the rear of the property. And so that encroaches onto that 5-foot setback that's required. And then the concrete walk was right at the edge of the concrete walk would be right at the property line. So those are the 2 variances because that concrete walk is supposed to be 3 feet from the property line. But the edge of it would be right at the property line. So you have any other questions? Okay. So we're asking for permission to do this. And actually, we're asking for approval, but I would actually encourage this type of investment in an owner-occupied property. Because we all know that the more owner-occupied properties, the stronger the neighborhoods, and he has a strong commitment to the neighborhood by wanting to do this project. I don't see any adverse effects to the neighbor's property. As you can see, there's just nothing back there. So I don't see what this variance, how it would harm the neighbor's property in any way.
Stay there for a moment. Is there anyone else present who would like to testify in this matter? No, you can, no questions. You can, if there's information you want to provide to the board, that's fine. We don't inquisition this. But thank you for your interest.
So I just briefly, as a brief statement, Xavier had said that I should try to talk to my neighbors and get their input. Obviously, that's all hearsay. But the neighbors right next door, I have not been able to get a hold of them. We have very different schedules. They usually leave at 10 in the morning, come home 10, 11 at night. But the other neighbors who got notice have reached out to me. My across the street neighbor is thrilled. He's actually asked if I needed a mason so he can help. Sorry, across the street, Taylor, and then across the street, Monmouth, my other neighbor, she said, "Hey, I got notice." And I said, "Oh, what do you think?" And she pretty much said, "Oh, it seems neat. Good idea." So nothing adverse from those other neighbors, and really nothing negative, really no communication at all with that garage neighbor.
Is that staff, just to confirm that the neighbor, next door neighbor was notified of the variance in the hearing?
That's correct.
Have we received any communication from them?
We have not.
Okay. Thank you. Board, any questions of the applicant or the applicant's representative?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just help me visualize this. The existing brick parking pad is where?
It's on the other side, the rear of the property.
And that,
So you're looking at it from the street, the side street.
Okay.
And the stair would be behind it, behind the
And what's
garage.
being proposed is what is going to take that place now? What, yeah,
This is proposed to be a patio.
just be as partially covered or entirely covered?
There will be a louvered roof structure to cover it.
Okay, so right now it's just, again, it's used currently as a parking
No,
space? Okay. And, but as a patio, people would sit there and use
Right.
it as such? Okay. But even now they could, in theory? Okay. And then if we go back to the other picture, the previous one, between the two garages. So right now, how much space is between the garage and that tree? You said that's the boundary line, essentially?
to this tree is approximately 5 feet. And then there's another a little more than 2 feet.
Okay. So
neighbor.
we're talking between the garage and the tree is where the stairwell and the walkway would be.
Correct.
And again, right now, and the property owner could walk through there if he would want to. I mean,
Yes.
it could act as a walkway technically. And the stairs how would they be angled? In other words, how would you,
They're coming from this edge of the garage because that's where the deck will be.
okay,
So they're coming from the deck down to the rear of the property.
okay,
Because there's a 2-story addition between the existing house and the garage.
understood, okay,
So that 2-story addition opens up to the deck that's built on top of the garage. And then those stairs would lead you down to the rear.
okay. Thank you.
Staff, there are no variances required for the addition itself, correct?
If I understand the question correct, yes, the only variance is required are for the stairwell and then for the patio, but the addition does not require a variance for its setback. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question to staff?
What's that?
Can I ask a question to staff?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just want to understand, if not for the stairwell, if the homeowner would just want to pave it and use it as a walkway, would that require variance, or it's because of the stairwell? I mean, as it is now, he could just walk through if he would want to, so.
If he was to just have a stairwell in that area,
No, just a walkway.
oh, excuse me, if he was to just have a walkway in that area, it would still need to be 3 feet from the property line. So in all likelihood, since there's 5 feet of space right now, if it's a 3-foot walkway, then it would be probably 2 feet from the property line and still require a variance. Because the walkway would still have to be 3 feet from the property line.
What defines as a walkway is a paved path? Is that
Correct, like a concrete path.
concrete path? Okay.
Question for the applicants. Which of the trees on the picture are going to need to be removed?
Most likely this
Smaller? The larger tree.
I believe. I don't know where the edge of the concrete is going to fall. I believe it's right on the edge of this tree.
Yeah, but okay. I'm directing my question to the larger tree closer to the neighbor's structure.
Correct.
Is that going to survive?
Most likely not.
That's a tree on the neighbor's yard.
I'd have to see where it's staked. I don't know where the property line is, where it falls in here. It might be right on the property line.
The concern we have, obviously, if you're going to do something that's going to damage a tree on a neighbor's property.
Right.
That's something we're not generally crazy about. Other questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hall?
I'm just looking at the first floor plan and the second floor plan pages in the submission, and I'm trying to see the consistency, and there seems to be an inconsistency here. In the first floor plan, the existing garage appears to be farther from the property line than the house.
It is.
In the second floor plan, the deck exceeds the space of the garage. Is there an overhang there?
Yeah, I think that's what you're looking at.
That's the first floor plan, so that shows that the existing garage is set back farther than the house.
It is.
And we had heard from staff that the there's no variance required because you can take the addition at the same length as the existing house. The existing garage obviously is not part of that, but then you have the deck on the second floor, which seems to hang over where the steps go down.
Can you show the second floor plan?
Is there an,
The deck is the same size as the garage.
so if you look at this drawing, the garage is close ends. You see where the stairs meet the garage? That is closer to the property line than the garage.
The stair
Is
is.
that an overhang?
No, that's where you have access to the stair and it takes you down at the back of the garage.
Staircase goes from the deck down to the.
Yeah, but
The deck is on top of the garage.
Correct.
The deck has an overhang over the side of the garage.
Just to access the stair.
Okay, but that is an overhang.
This landing.
How much space is there between where the house ends and where the deck and stairs end? Do you know?
How much closer it is to the.
Yeah, because isn't that the actual variance right there? Because you have the right to continue the addition based on the property line. So isn't the variance just that little bit of stair and overhang?
Oh, you're talking here.
Yeah,
If
if I could direct that to staff too.
that is correct. So if I understand what you're saying, right, the variance request is just for the stairwell and that.
Not the whole stairwell, because they have the right to build at the house line to continue the 2 feet 10-inch setback all the way through.
I think the important distinction is that the stairwell is an accessory structure. So once the garage is connected to the main home, that's the footprint of the primary building, and that can all be that 2 feet. But accessory structures have their own setback requirements, which is their variance request that they have.
Hypothetically speaking, if they were building a new garage as part of this and that garage had the same setback as the house, that would not require a variance because it's an attached garage.
Correct, yeah. If it was just a garage, and again, the issue in this case is just the stairwell. Because the stairwell is the accessory structure.
But if they were hypothetically to build forget the stairway as an accessory, if the garage itself were to go past the house, what is that? I don't know if it's 1.5 feet, 2 feet, I don't know what's there. That would require a variance, but only for that 2 feet.
You're right. So if they were to build a new attached garage that was on the footprint of the stairwell, and closer to the property line, that would require a variance because it's closer to the property line. If I understand what you're saying, right?
So the extent of the variance is expanded because of the fact that the stairs is an accessory as opposed to part of the primary building.
I'm not sure I understand the question correctly, but the stairs are, because they're an accessory structure, they have their own setback requirements, and that's their variance request.
Mr. Chair, if I may? Yes, please. So only because it's an accessory, like if the stairs were part of the garage and not an addition to the garage, then they wouldn't need, and if it kept in the same line, as the house, the current house, it would be okay, but not because it is an accessory. Meaning like if it, right now, the current house is 2 feet 10 inches from the property line. So they don't need a variance to continue the addition because they're continuing with those lines. But even if that stairwell fit in those lines, it would still need a variance. Okay.
That's correct. So even if the stairwell was 2 feet 10 inches from the property line, it would still require a variance because that part of our code around non-conforming structures where we give permission for buildings to expand if they don't have the required setback is just for additions and just for buildings and not for the stairwell.
If I could just dovetail that again. If they built that stairwell inside the garage, hypothetically, not trying to get anything to be changed here, that would be part of the primary structure, not an accessory. Therefore, they could build that all the way to the 2 feet 10 inch line.
Yes, because I think because the outer, from the outside, it would just look like a garage, even though there's an inside stairwell. If I can build off that, so that part of the non-conforming code that allows you to extend back within the required side yard, it only allows you to go as far back as your building is long. So their building is like roughly 30 feet back. So they're pretty much at the limit of how far back they can expand within that required setback. So where they have the garage shown, they probably wouldn't be able to have a garage that's close in that area. Because it would be further than it'd be longer than the primary building.
Other questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Is there where they're building or I can ask the applicant, where you're building the patio, that's currently already a brick patio,
Yes,
the entire area? So you're just redoing it with concrete?
yes.
Let me ask staff a question that I asked the applicant. Can we see the trees? Best estimate, the larger tree with the branching. Best estimate, whose property is that on?
My best estimate is that that's on the neighbor's property, but I did not take any measurements while I was out there.
If we build, or they build as intended, do we have an idea of whether or not that would damage the root structure and imperil that tree? Or do we know, or,
I'm sorry, I don't think I can answer that question.
yeah, we don't have enough information?
I do not know.
Okay. Applicant was going to say something.
Yes, just if I may, it's about 50-50 is last time I just stepped it off, is that about half of that tree is on my property, half of that tree is on the neighbor's property.
You understand my concern?
Distance is a little over 7 feet. Between the garages.
You understand my concern?
Yes, sir.
If a neighbor did something that imperiled a tree like that on my property, you might imagine the concern that might raise.
Well, he'd get permission first before
Absolutely,
doing
yes.
that.
Other questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
What is currently on the ground there? Is that just dirt? I mean, is it dirt? Is it grass?
It's dirt.
Yeah.
It's dirt and gravel and building materials from previous things. There's like bricks and other things back there.
Do you know, or have you done any study about what effect the patio would have, or the walkway would have on water runoff issues going into your neighbor's property?
It would slope to the rear yard. We can't slope to the neighbor's property.
Right.
It would have to slope to the rear yard. And that's a grass,
Any drainage there connected, or is it just gonna drain
and
up?
that's a grass area when you get past the patio.
Do you notice any standing water there currently?
My dog regularly runs back and forth through there, and there's never been any excess water there.
Other questions? If not, we'll close the public hearing. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair,
Wolf,
are we ready for a motion?
you are, we are.
All right. Regarding calendar number 3617 A and T Natus, I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, 2564 South Taylor Road, I move to grant the application for a variance with conditions. A, to code section 1121.12A4 to permit steps that exceed 3 feet in height to be less than 5 feet from the side property line, and B, to code section 1121.12A5 to permit a patio and walkway to be less than 3 feet from the side property line. I'm going to combine both variances. After reviewing the application and other submissions, hearing the evidence under oath, the board finds and concludes that special conditions and circumstances do exist which are peculiar to the land structure involved, as the existing home is currently non-conforming and is currently 2 feet 10 inches from the northern side property line, and homes require 5 feet. The patio and walkway will be less than 3 feet from the side property line, but in line with the addition. The property in question will not yield a reasonable return without the variance, as the stairwell cannot be placed on the front of the property, as it can be seen from the street for security purposes. Again, the variance is insubstantial and a minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land structure. It is the only place where they can place the stairwell. Currently, there is also a patio, and in the current location where the concrete patio will be placed. The essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered as a result of the variance, as it will not be seen, the affected area will not be seen from the street. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. Property owner had no intention of an addition when they purchased the home, so they had no knowledge of the zoning restriction, the variance. And these are not a result of the actions of the applicant. If granted, the variance shall have the following conditions. 1, calendar number 3617 is granted to A, to code section 1121.12A4 to permit steps that exceed 3 feet in height to be 3 feet from the side property line as shown on the drawing submitted to BZA on December 10th, 2025, and B, to code section 1121.12A5 to permit a patio and walkway to be 0 feet from the side property line as shown on the drawing submitted to BZA on December 10th, 2025. 2, the patio shown on the drawing submitted to BZA on December 10th, 2025 may not be used as a parking pad. 3, approval of the Architectural Board of Review. 4, receipt of a building permit. 5, complete construction within 24 months of the effective date of this variance. And may we add another condition that permission must be number 6, permission must be granted from the neighbor if the tree will be affected in the construction of that walkway and stairwell.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Good luck. Thank you. All right, we'll move to calendar number 3622, the application of 2211 Lee Road owner LLC, property located at 2211 Lee Road in a 2X multiple use district. Do we have an update from staff?
Mr. Chair, staff is requesting that this case be continued to February because staff did not have time to review additional information provided by the applicant relevant to the variance.
All right, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Hall.
I'll move to continue calendar number 3622 to the February meeting.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Calendar number 3622 is continued to our February meeting. All right, let's move right along to calendar number 3623, the application of SPH Properties 2 LLC for property located at 2096 Lenox Road in an S2 mixed-use district, requesting two variances. First, to code section 1123.06 to permit the land per dwelling unit to be 727 square feet, where the minimum is 1,750 square feet, and two, to permit a density of 59.8 units per acre, where the maximum is 25 units per acre. Second, to code section 1161.034 to permit 3 off-street parking spaces where 11 are required. Would anyone wishing to testify in this matter please stand to be sworn?
Please affirm that you will testify to the truth.
All right. All right, before staff begins his presentation, unless there are objections, I'll ask that the staff report dated January 16th, 2026 be entered into the record. Seeing and hearing no objections, the report is so entered. All right, again, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is calendar number 3623, SPH Properties 2 LLC at 2096 Lenox Road in an S2 mixed-use district, requesting the two variances previously described. 2096 Lenox Road is a multifamily building in an S2 mixed-use district. The property is one property south of the Lenox Road and Euclid Heights Boulevard intersection. All other properties immediately around 2096 Lenox Road are zoned S2 mixed use. The master plan future land use map shows that the parcel will be used for detached single-family or multifamily purposes. The applicant proposes to add a first-floor dwelling to an existing multifamily building. Although 2096 Lenox Road is in an S2 mixed-use district, the parcel follows the standards of the MF2 multiple family district because the parcel is a multiple family dwelling. The parcel is a non-conforming lot in terms of area and width. The parcel is 7,995 square feet in area and approximately 67 feet wide at the building line. A code-conforming MF2 multiple family parcel has an area of 20,000 square feet and a minimum width of 100 feet at the building line. According to county records, the building was constructed in 1918.
Sorry, when?
1918, excuse me. The proposed dwelling will be on the first floor of the building and will convert space that is currently an office. It will be 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom. It'll be 758 square feet, which is a code-conforming size. The minimum floor area for a dwelling unit in a multiple family building is 500 square feet. The current building has 10 dwelling units, or 54.3 dwelling units per acre, which is non-conforming. MF2 multiple family parcels are required to have a maximum density of 20 dwelling units per acre. Similarly, the current building has 800 square feet of land area per dwelling unit, which is also non-conforming. MF2 multiple family parcels have a minimum of 1,750 square feet of land area per dwelling unit are required. With the additional dwelling unit, 2096 Lenox Road will have 59.8 dwelling units per acre and 727 square feet of land area per dwelling unit, which requires a variance. Multiple family dwellings are required to provide 1 off-street parking space per dwelling unit. 2096 Lenox Road has a parking lot with 3 off-street parking spaces, which is non-conforming. Because they have 10 units, they'd be required to have 10 off-street parking spaces. With the additional dwelling unit, 2096 Lenox Road would be required to have 11 parking spaces, which requires a variance. I know there's a lot of information here, but before I show some more photos from the site visit, I just made this map to show how the proposed density for 2096 Lenox compares to the neighborhood. So the existing density on Lenox ranges from 55 to 72 units per acre. On Surrey, which is one block over, you see slightly lower densities of 28 to 44 units per acre. One other characteristic you can see on this aerial is that many of the buildings on Lenox have no parking or limited parking behind them. And that's one reason why street parking is permitted on Lenox and Surrey, overnight street parking. This is a look at Lenox in the middle of the afternoon. As you can see, it's a dense neighborhood. And then here is Surrey Road, and as you can see, it's slightly less dense. This is a look at the applicant's parking lot. And as I mentioned, on Lenox Road, many of the buildings have no parking, like the top two buildings. Sometimes you see, in one instance, you saw parking on the driveway, like in the lower left. And then in the lower right, there was one building that had a garage, but it was clearly not used for parking. Across the street from the applicant is Lot 6, which has permit parking in the upper left. And I spoke with police today, and they have 4 spaces available. Slightly further away is the Lenox Surrey garage, which also has parking availability. And then, of course, also there's now a new parking garage at the top of the hill development, and then street parking, like I mentioned. Before I explain the conditions, I did just want to notify the board that I had 2 residents reach out to me. One was Maureen Mullen at 2399 Euclid Heights Boulevard, unit number 2, and Kristen Van Kranerbau at 2397 Euclid Heights Boulevard, number 1. Both of them expressed concern to me about the increase in density at the building. But once I explained to them that the number of the units in the building were not doubling, there was just an increase of 1 unit, both of them were comfortable with that increase in density and withdrew their statement. In summary, conditions should include calendar number 3623 is granted to code section 1123.06 to permit the land area per dwelling unit to be 727 square feet and to permit a density of 59.8 units per acre. To code section 1161.034 to permit 3 off-street parking spaces when 11 are required. Receipt of a building permit and complete construction within 12 months of the effective date of this variance. Thank you.
Questions for staff? I've got one question. Could you put up the density requirement chart, please? Fair to say that the bulk of the nonconformance is a current condition?
I'm sorry, can you,
Okay.
I don't understand.
Right now, current, right? It's not in compliance, correct?
That's correct.
And the change results in a circumstance where if we permit this, most of the nonconformance is still caused by what the building already has, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Other questions of staff? All right, if not, if the applicant could, or the applicant's representative could come to the podium and please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ron Kluchin. I'm the architect for the project at 23215 Commerce Park, Beechwood.
All right. Did you or the applicant submit an application requesting the variance?
I believe I did,
All right. And to the best of your knowledge, are the contents of that application true and correct?
to the best of my knowledge.
Unless there are objections, I'd ask that the application materials submitted by the applicant or the applicant's representative be made part of tonight's record. Seeing and hearing no objections, the application is so entered. So again, if you could summarize for us the reasons for the variances that are being requested, and again, to the extent to which you can tie that to our standards, that we would find that helpful.
Oh, thank you. The client, Dan Siegel, who owns the building, has owned it for over 20 years. The building is over 100 years old. And as Xavier said, many of the buildings on that street have no parking. We happen to have 3 spaces. Adding the extra unit is inside the building. It's a space that he's used for about 20 years for office space. He owns several buildings in the area, and this was the office. He has now consolidated his buildings, and he has an office in a different location. So this space, as you can see by the plan, Xavier, could you shoot the plan up? It's becomes a very nice one-bedroom suite. It has 2 entrances, actually. It has a front entrance and a back entrance, which nobody else has on that building. And it has lots of windows. The plumbing is already there when it was a office space, so it's sort of a slam dunk to make it into a suite. And if you're in real estate at all, you know a 10-suite building doesn't really make it. Dan Siegel has put a lot of money in this building, new windows and new flooring, and it's a 100-year-old building, so it needs a lot of maintenance. Adding the other suite would help a lot, and it's certainly in demand for affordable housing. This probably will rent for certainly under $2,000, more like $1,500 a month. As far as the parking, there are 4 lots within easy walking distance to the building, and they all have, I think, a total of about 425 spaces, of which there's not 425 available at this time, but there may be 10, there might be 20, there may be 30. It changes weekly as tenants move in and out for the spaces, but there's lots of spaces available, and there's parking on all the streets that surround the building. So that has not been a problem with our 10 tenants. We think that just adding one more tenant is not going to affect anything in the city, anything on the street. It'll just finish the building off. We'll finally be able to use that space that's been there all these years. 100 years hasn't been used. So we're ready to use it now. And our hardship is the size of the land is the size of the land. It's not going to change. And the same thing with the buildings and the parking. There's only so much parking in the back, and it's a very small parcel of land, 7,900 square feet. That's our hardship. It's an old building on an old piece of land, a small piece of land.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would wish to testify in this matter? If not, board, any questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair? Is this unit, it's a first floor unit?
It is.
It's a first floor unit. And are there stairs to be able to access the unit?
Yeah, you come out here, and these stairs go out of the building, and in the back, you come out.
There's no stairs in the back?
Yeah, there's a stair here.
But it would be easier access for someone who needed like a first floor living space. Okay.
Stay by the microphone, please.
You go back up, just use that part of the tank.
Oh, okay, well, I have to go up.
We record these.
Okay. Yeah, that stair, if you were handicapped, you would certainly use the back. We could probably put a ramp there, actually. It's only 1 stair. It would be our only ADA suite.
And that access is directly into the unit?
Yes.
So no one, that's not access to any other, like none of the other units can,
After you go through that second door.
okay. Thank you.
Other questions? If not, we can close the public hearing. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Stern.
regarding calendar number 3623, SBH Properties 2 LLC, 2096 Lennox Road, I move to grant the application for variance with conditions, A to code section 1123.06, to permit the land area per dwelling unit to be 727 square feet, when the minimum is 1,750 square feet, and to permit a density of 59.8 units per acre, when the maximum is 25 units per acre, and to code 1161.034 to permit 3 off-street parking spaces when 11 are required, and I will address both variances with this motion. After reviewing the application and other submissions, hearing the evidence under oath, the board finds and concludes that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure involved. This land structure, this property is wholly and substantially non-compliant as is, both in terms of area and width, and more importantly, in terms of density. In terms of number of units per acre, as well as the square footage. So an additional unit would really not alter that dynamic much, if at all. The property in question will not yield a reasonable return without the variance, as noted by the applicant's representative. It's an older building, very expensive to maintain, with only 10 units. One additional unit would help keep that property in a good financial position, as well as the fact that it's zoned as an MF2, which would require it to have to be used as a dwelling unit. It cannot be used for anything else. The variance is insubstantial, minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land. It's a space that's already pretty much ready to be turned into a living space. The plumbing is there, easy access to the building. Essential character of the neighborhood would not be substantially altered as a result of the variance. As noted, many buildings in the area have are even more dense. Parking, if anything, this building has more parking than other properties. And again, this would not change the character of the neighborhood and is quite insubstantial in terms of what already exists. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. It's just adding a unit, first floor, and however those services are provided until now would continue to be provided. If granted, the variance shall have the following conditions. Calendar number 3623 is granted. 8 to code section 1123.06 to permit the land area per dwelling unit to be 727 square feet, and 2 to permit a density of 59.8 units per acre. B to code 1161.034 to permit 3 off-street parking spaces when 11 are required. 2, receipt of a building permit, and 3, complete construction within 12 months of the effective date of this variance.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hone. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. The variance is granted. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. All right, let's move on to calendar number 3624, the application of Cadet Ventures LLC for property located at 2094 Lamberton Road, located in a single-family district, requesting a variance to code section 1121.1282 to permit a garage with a living space to be less than 5 feet from the rear and side lot lines. Would those wishing to testify in this matter please stand to be sworn?
Sir, is it his case?
That's our alternate.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it does not. Mr. Chair, it does not seem like the applicant is here.
Continue it until next month.
That's unfortunate. But if the board so pleases, we could continue this to next month.
Because nobody can testify that the application is authentic or?
I mean, look, it is within the board's discretion to deny a variance request if the applicant doesn't show up. We generally don't do that. The alternative would be to move to continue.
Chair.
Mr. Hone.
Move to continue.
Is there a second?
Number 3624.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would say one continuance on these grounds.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing binds us to requires future continuances. The weather is adverse out there, so there may be explanation. But in any event, if there's no more discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? This matter is also continued to our February meeting, the docket for which seems to be getting longer. All right. Is there any old business?
No old business. And regarding, there was a previous variance case about Fairmount Montessori. Previously, they were coming up to the limit on the expiration of their variance, but really in the last minute, in the last week, they completed construction, so that there's no reason to consider that case anymore.
Okay. All right, well, that makes our life easier. So, all right, we won't need to deal with that. Is there any new business?
As you know, there'll be a meeting next month, so thank you.
That will be it. All right, if there's nothing further, I want to thank the board and thank for those in attendance. The meeting is adjourned at 8 o'clock.